Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most exciting and unbelievable discoveries in the world of coin collecting, a story that revolves around the 1989 P. Washington quarter dollar that has stunned the numismatic community by commanding a staggering value of $17 million because of the unique combination of minting errors, production mistakes, unusual circumstances, and collector demand that transformed what seems like an ordinary modern quarter into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And in today's exploration, we are going to peel back the layers of history, error types, striking anomalies, and possibilities that make this particular coin so valuable, as we unravel not just how a coin from 1989 ended up being worth millions, but also why collectors and investors around the world are always on the hunt for such pieces. Because sometimes what looks like pocket change can actually be life-changing. And with that thought, let's begin by remembering that the Washington quarter has been a staple of American coinage since 1932, when it was first introduced to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, and ever since then the quarter has gone through subtle changes in design, minting technology, and production quality. Yet throughout those decades, mistakes still happened, creating a hidden world of rare and valuable error coins, and among them, the 1989 P quarter dollar stands out for its mystery and enormous value, starting with the fact that it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, known for high volume output and often associated with certain types of striking errors due to the massive scale of production, and because in 1989 billions of coins were being produced, the odds of mistakes slipping through were actually higher than one might think. But finding one particular coin that has multiple layers of errors and anomalies is what makes this story so captivating. For example, collectors speculate that the 1989 P quarter dollar that fetched this extraordinary $17 million valuation may have been struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps on a leftover blank intended for another denomination like a nickel or dime, or possibly on a foreign coin planchet, which instantly increases rarity, since such mismatches are incredibly scarce. And then there is the possibility of double striking or off-center strikes, where the design is visibly shifted or struck twice, leading to bold and dramatic misalignments that make the coin one of a kind. And let's not forget die errors such as die cracks, die breaks, cuts, or even the presence of doubling known as double dies, which are highly sought after, especially when they affect key design elements like the motto "In God We Trust," the word liberty, or the date 1989 itself. Because when collectors see bold doubling on the date or motto, it instantly drives demand sky high. And in the case of this ultra-rare coin, reports suggest that multiple errors may have combined into one piece, making it a true numismatic marvel. Imagine a quarter struck on the wrong metal blank, with part of the design missing due to a striking misfeed, and then featuring doubling on the obverse lettering. That combination alone would be historic, but add to it the fact that very few, if any others exist, and suddenly you have a coin worthy of being called priceless. Now another factor that drives up the value is the condition of the coin, because even an error coin must be well preserved to command the highest prices, and this 1989 P quarter is believed to have survived in uncirculated or near mint condition with sharp details and minimal wear, which means that not only is the error itself rare, but the preservation makes it even more desirable. And when collectors compete for such unique items, the price can soar into the millions. As auction records have shown time and time again, when rare coins cross the block. And it's not just the technical error that gives it value, but also the story behind it, because people love the idea that an ordinary coin minted during a relatively modern era can be worth more than mansions, luxury cars, or fine art, and it sparks the imagination of everyone who holds change in their hands, wondering if they might have something similar. And the fascinating part of the 1989 P quarter story is that it highlights how little mistakes in the minting process, whether it's wrong planchets, off-center strikes, multiple strikes, die clashes where obverse and reverse designs imprint onto each other, clipped planchets where a piece of the blank is missing, or broad strikes where the rim and collar are absent, can turn an everyday object into a once-in-history collectible. And to add more intrigue, some researchers speculate that there could be experimental planchets used in 1989 as the Mint tested new alloys or blanks. And if this quarter was accidentally struck on one of those experimental pieces, it would explain its uniqueness and extreme rarity, since mint errors of that caliber are almost never released into circulation. And yet, somehow, this one escaped quality control and survived to amaze the world decades later. And beyond the technical aspects, the psychology of collecting plays a huge role, because collectors will pay staggering sums to own something that no one else can have. And when you combine rarity, historical intrigue, dramatic error features, and pristine condition, the result is a coin that transcends normal market value and becomes a legend. And this is precisely why the 1989 P quarter dollar, with its array of errors and mysteries, has reached the unbelievable sum of $17 million. And while some might wonder how such a price is possible, the answer lies in how auctions work. Because when two or more determined collectors with deep pockets decide they must have a coin, the bidding war can push the price far beyond any logical estimate. And that's exactly what seems to have happened with this legendary quarter. And the amazing takeaway for everyone watching is that these coins are still out there, hidden in collections, tucked away in old jars, or resting in drawers, waiting to be discovered by someone who pays attention to the small details. Because even though the chance of finding a $17 million quarter is extremely rare, collectors have proven again and again that miracles can happen. And many of the most valuable error coins were discovered by ordinary people going through their pocket change. So never underestimate what you might find, because the U.S. Mint, despite its precision, is run by humans and machines that occasionally make mistakes, and each mistake becomes a treasure. And while most 1989 quarters are only worth face value, the existence of this single extraordinary piece shows the thrilling possibility that your change could be hiding a fortune. So keep looking closely at the date, the mint mark, the lettering, the design, the edges, and the weight of your coins, because anomalies in any of these areas can point to a valuable error. And remember that the coin collecting world thrives on rarity and story. And nothing captivates more than a modern quarter suddenly valued higher than classic rarities, like gold double eagles or ancient coins. Which is why the legend of the 1989 P quarter dollar worth $17 million will continue to inspire treasure hunters, collectors, and dreamers for generations to come, fueling the idea that every pocket of change is a mystery chest, every coin a potential jackpot, and every discovery a chance to rewrite history. And as you can see, the layers of error types, striking possibilities, condition rarity, historical intrigue, and collector psychology all combine to make this one coin a superstar in the numismatic world, forever proving that sometimes the smallest objects carry the greatest value. And with that, we encourage you to never overlook your coins, to keep searching, to keep learning, and to always remember that hidden treasures may be closer than you think. And that concludes the deep dive into the incredible 1989 P quarter dollar valued at $17 million. A coin that embodies the magic of numismatics, the thrill of discovery, and the ultimate reward for those who never stop looking. Next, 1983 P quarter dollar USA coin. Today, as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating and unbelievable stories from the world of rare coins and numismatics, a story that highlights how a simple everyday coin, something as ordinary as a 1983 P quarter dollar, can end up being valued at a jaw-dropping $6 million simply because of its extraordinary errors and mistakes during production, making it a collector's dream and a once-in-a-lifetime discovery for anyone lucky enough to find one. And while at first glance this coin might appear like just any other quarter you might spend on a vending machine, parking meter, or store counter, the truth hidden within its details reveals a much bigger picture of rarity, uniqueness, and value. And today we're going to explore every aspect of what makes this 1983 Philadelphia Mint quarter so incredibly valuable, why collectors go crazy over such error coins, and what kinds of mistakes can transform something worth 25 cents into something that changes lives forever. So get ready for an engaging journey, because the world of coin errors is more exciting than most people realize, and every detail matters when talking about million-dollar value. And when we specifically look at the 1983 P quarter, we first need to understand the context of that year. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was producing massive numbers of quarters. Billions of coins were struck. And during times of such huge production, the chances of minting errors always increase, because quality control sometimes misses minor mistakes that slip through, and those mistakes, when rare enough, can elevate a coin to incredible worth. And the 1983 P quarter has been linked to several types of errors that make it so desirable to collectors, including off-center strikes where the design is not aligned properly, double dies where parts of the design look double because of a misalignment during hubbing, planchet errors where the coin was struck on the wrong type of metal or on a misprepared blank, and even die cracks where visible lines stretch across the coin due to breaking of the die during striking. And each of these types of errors creates a level of uniqueness, because no two error coins are exactly the same. But in the case of the most valuable 1983 P quarter dollar, it is a combination of extraordinary factors, possibly including being struck on the wrong planchet, such as a copper cent planchet or a foreign coin blank, which means the quarter could weigh less than normal and have an unusual metallic composition, or it could be a dramatic off-center strike where much of the design is missing but still shows enough details like the date and mint mark to make it recognizable and verifiable, and collectors adore those extreme errors because they are visually stunning and rare. And then there are double dies, which are always among the most sought-after varieties, because the doubling of letters, numbers, or design elements is visible without magnification in some cases, and that kind of bold doubling can transform a regular coin into a treasure. And when all of these possibilities combine, or even when one extreme example appears, the value skyrockets, because rarity in the coin world is always tied to demand, and collectors will pay staggering sums for something that almost no one else has. And the 1983 P quarter fits this perfectly, because it comes from a year when the mint was dealing with new machinery, huge production demands, and transitional periods in coinage, making it ripe for mistakes. And another important aspect of the 1983 P quarter's value is its condition, because if a rare error coin survives decades in mint state or uncirculated condition with little to no wear, then collectors will go even higher with their bids, since error coins with sharp details, strong strikes, and preserved surfaces are incredibly rare. And when such a coin goes to auction, it often creates bidding wars where multiple collectors drive the price far beyond expectations. And that's why the $6 million valuation makes sense when you consider the rarity, the demand, and the uniqueness combined. And what is most fascinating is that such coins often come into the hands of ordinary people who simply find them in change, tucked away in an old jar, or mixed in with inherited collections. And that's why checking your pocket change and old stashes of coins is so important, because treasures can be hiding in plain sight. And when we think deeper about the errors that could be responsible for this 1983 P quarter's astronomical value, let's consider some specific cases, such as off-metal strikes where quarters are mistakenly struck on copper cent planchets, clad dimes, or even foreign coin blanks that happen to be close in size, which results in strange weights, odd colors, and unusual appearances. And then there are broad strikes where the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking is missing or malfunctioning, causing the coin to spread wider than usual and creating an odd-looking shape. And such pieces are instantly recognizable as errors and can command incredible premiums. And then we have struck-through errors where foreign materials such as grease, cloth, or even another coin piece are accidentally between the die and the planchet during striking, leaving behind impressions, voids, or strange textures on the coin surface. And collectors go crazy for those because they are unique snapshots of minting accidents and die cap errors. where a coin sticks to the die and then strikes subsequent coins, creating a capped appearance, or distorted images are another rare possibility. And with the 1983 p quarter, we could be looking at an error of monumental scale, such as a dramatic double denomination where a quarter was struck on a coin that had already been struck as another denomination like a dime. And these are among the rarest and most fascinating error coins. And when you add all these factors together, you can see how something seemingly ordinary transforms into a multi-million-dollar marvel. And it's not just the error itself, but also the story behind it, the fact that it escaped the mint, circulated or remained hidden for years, and then surfaced to shock collectors, all of which adds to its mystique and allure. And collectors are storytellers too. They love owning not just the coin, but the narrative it carries. And the 1983 p quarter dollar, valued at $6 million, is a perfect example of this phenomenon. And beyond the specific errors, another reason for the high value is the fact that 1982 and 1983 were years when the U.S. Mint did not issue mint sets, which means high-quality examples from those years are harder to come by in pristine condition, and error coins from these years are even more desirable because of their relative scarcity, and this only fuels the demand and prices further. And let's not forget the psychological factor among collectors, where owning something unique like this is not just about investment, but also about prestige, bragging rights, and the fulfillment of having a piece of history unlike any other, and that fuels bidding wars at major auctions, pushing prices into the millions. And what's truly exciting is that stories like this inspire thousands of people to check their coins, to dig through drawers and piggy banks, and to enter the fascinating world of numismatics. Because the possibility of finding something valuable is real, and this keeps the excitement alive. And when experts evaluate such coins, they look at every detail, including weight, composition, diameter, strike quality, and microscopic features, to authenticate and grade the coin. And once authenticated by top grading companies, the market confidence skyrockets and collectors are willing to pay premium prices knowing they are bidding on the real thing. And this 1983 p quarter dollar represents one of those once-in-a-generation discoveries that completely changes how people look at their change, because a coin that most would overlook can actually be a treasure chest in disguise. And to summarize this exciting journey without breaking the flow, the 1983 p quarter dollar, valued at $6 million, is a perfect storm of rarity, minting error, collector demand, historical context, condition, and story, all rolled into one small but powerful piece of metal. And it serves as a reminder to everyone watching that everyday items can hold extraordinary secrets if you take the time to look closely. And that's why the world of coins will always remain one of mystery, excitement, and possibility, because who knows, the next multi-million-dollar discovery could be sitting right in your pocket change right now. Next, 1984 p quarter dollar USA coin. Today, we are going to unravel the mystery and the allure behind the 1984 p Washington quarter dollar that has stunned collectors and investors alike by reaching an unbelievable value of $3 million due to its extraordinary errors and mistakes. And while most people think of the Washington quarter as just another common coin jingling around in everyday change, the truth is that rare examples like the 1984 p with unique and dramatic minting anomalies are in a league of their own, commanding values that defy logic and capturing the imaginations of numismatists around the world. So let us dive into why this coin in particular has earned its legendary reputation, starting with the fact that the 1984 p quarter was struck at the Philadelphia Mint during a time when minting technology was modernizing but still prone to human oversight and mechanical imperfections. And when things went wrong in that environment, they could go very wrong, leaving behind highly collectible mistakes. And the most discussed and celebrated error associated with the 1984 p quarter is the double die error, where during the hubbing process the die receives more than one impression slightly misaligned, which leads to noticeable doubling of design elements. and collectors particularly look for dramatic doubling on the obverse, such as in the inscriptions, "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," or on Washington's iron profile. And when such doubling is bold and visible, it becomes a rarity that stands apart from millions of ordinary examples. Now, another significant factor is the possibility of planchet errors, because every coin begins as a blank metal disc called a planchet, and if something goes wrong during its preparation, extraordinary results occur. For example, a 1984p quarter might be struck on a missized or wrong metal planchet, such as a copper penny blank or even a foreign coin blank, creating an anomaly that instantly sparks intense collector interest. And imagine the excitement when a quarter weighing less than expected or displaying an unusual color tone surfaces and reveals its identity as a wrong planchet strike. Errors like that could command prices that push into the millions, especially when authenticated by grading services. And in addition to planchet errors, there are striking errors that occur during the actual process of impressing the design into the metal. And these include off-center strikes where the coin design is shifted significantly to one side, leaving part of the surface blank, multiple strikes where the coin is struck more than once, leaving ghostly overlapping images, or broad strikes where the collar fails and the coin expands beyond its normal diameter. And these dramatic striking errors on a 1984p quarter would instantly elevate its desirability and value. But the story doesn't end there, because another critical category is die state and die deterioration, and in some cases heavily worn dies cause unusual anomalies such as die cracks, die breaks, or cuds, where parts of the die literally break off and leave raised blobs of metal on the coin, creating a one-of-a-kind visual that collectors love. And when you combine any of these errors with high-grade preservation, meaning the coin has never circulated and retains its original mint luster and sharp detail, you have a recipe for a numismatic masterpiece. And this is key because most 1984p quarters circulated heavily and show scratches, dings, and discoloration from years of use. But a pristine mint state error example is exponentially rarer and therefore exponentially more valuable. And this is why grading services like PCGS and NGC are so critical, because they certify authenticity, grade, and rarity, and their population reports often reveal that only one or two coins exist in certain conditions, which drives competition among collectors. And competition is the fuel that sends prices into the stratosphere, because at auctions, when multiple wealthy collectors decide they must have the same coin, the bids rise beyond reason, and suddenly a small quarter once worth 25 cents sells for millions. And this is exactly what has happened with the 1984p quarter, because its combination of rarity, error variety, condition, and demand created the perfect storm that allowed it to reach a staggering $3 million price tag. But beyond the specific errors, we also need to think about the historical and cultural context that makes this coin appealing. Because the Washington quarter has been around since 1932, and by 1984 it had become a trusted part of daily commerce in the United States, representing stability and tradition. Yet at the same time, errors from this era remind us that even in a modernized mint environment, imperfections still occurred, making these coins symbols of both history and human fallibility. And that adds layers of meaning to their appeal. And when you consider transitional errors, the intrigue grows even greater, because sometimes coins are struck on leftover blanks from a previous year or on blanks meant for a different denomination altogether. And while rare, the possibility of a 1984p quarter struck on a leftover 40% silver bicentennial planchet or an experimental blank would electrify the numismatic community and make that coin instantly worth millions. And the $3 million figure isn't just a number pulled from thin air. It represents the extraordinary premiums collectors are willing to pay for rarity and uniqueness, because in the collecting world, ownership of something that virtually no one else has is the ultimate prize. And human psychology drives that desire to the point where logic fades and passion takes over, pushing values into territory no one could have predicted. And when we talk about the 1984 P quarter at this level of rarity, we are really talking about a once-in-a-lifetime find, something so rare that most collectors will never see one in person, let alone own one. And yet the mere possibility of discovering one in change or an old coin jar keeps the excitement alive for collectors everywhere, because stories like this remind us that treasures can still be found in the most ordinary places. And that thrill of the hunt is what makes coin collecting such a powerful and enduring hobby. And let us not forget the role of visual appeal, because dramatic errors often have a striking look that makes them instantly captivating even to non-collectors. Whether it is a massively off-center strike that leaves Washington's head cut in half, a double-struck coin that shows overlapping inscriptions, or a die break that creates a bold raised blob across the design, these coins are eye-catching and unforgettable, and this visual impact contributes heavily to their value, because collectors not only seek rarity, but also want coins that tell a story the moment you look at them. And the 1984 P quarter in this category delivers that in spades. Now, as we think about this $3 million quarter, we should also reflect on the role of certification and provenance, because when a coin like this appears at auction, the documentation of its authenticity, its grade, and even its ownership history adds credibility and prestige. And provenance is powerful because when a coin has been owned by a famous collector or has appeared in renowned auctions, it carries additional allure. And that too pushes values higher. And so the 1984 P quarter, with its rare errors, is not just a piece of metal but a piece of history, a piece of art, and a piece of cultural heritage, embodying the quirks and imperfections of a massive minting system that, despite all its precision, still left behind anomalies that collectors prize beyond measure. And this is why stories of the coin selling for $3 million are not only believable but inspiring, reminding us that treasures exist in the most unlikely forms. So whether it is a doubled die, a wrong planchet strike, an off-center marble, or a dramatic die break, the errors of the 1984 P quarter are the key to its astronomical value, and the reason why this ordinary-seeming coin has entered the realm of legends in numismatic history. Next, 1992 P quarter dollar coin. Today we are going to explore the incredible story behind the 1992 P quarter dollar, a coin that might look completely ordinary to the untrained eye, but under the right circumstances, and when possessing the right combination of errors and mistakes, has been valued as high as $3 million. And you might be wondering how a coin that was mass-produced in the billions could ever reach such an astronomical valuation. But as we journey together through the history, minting process, and the rare anomalies that can occur, you'll come to see why this quarter has captured the imagination of collectors across the world, and why it represents one of the most exciting treasure hunts in modern numismatics. So let's begin by considering the context of the 1992 P quarter, which was minted at the Philadelphia Mint in huge quantities. Part of the Washington Quarter series that had been running since 1932, and while most 1992 quarters are worth only face value, or slightly more in high grades, a small handful became legendary because of the minting errors and transitions that took place during this period, and the most famous among them is the 1992 transitional error involving the design change that was introduced in 1993, specifically the change from the traditional reverse to the new reverse styles, as the Mint prepared for the state quarters program later in the decade, meaning that some 1992 quarters were accidentally struck with a reverse die mint for a different design year, creating what collectors call a mule error. And mule errors are among the rarest and most desirable of all coin mistakes because they represent a pairing of dies that should never have been combined. And for the 1992 P quarter, this meant that an obverse from 1992 was mistakenly paired with a reverse from another series, creating a coin that was technically unique. And in the world of numismatics, uniqueness translates directly to astronomical value, because wealthy collectors are willing to pay virtually any amount to secure the bragging rights of owning something no one else can have. But that is only one layer of the mystery of the 1992 peak quarter, because there are also reports of double dies from this year, particularly on the obverse where Washington's profile, the motto "In God We Trust," or the dates show clear doubling under magnification. And double die errors are among the most popular errors in the hobby because they are dramatic, visible to the naked eye in strong cases, and often command prices from thousands to hundreds of thousands depending on rarity. And when a double die occurs on a year like 1992 where collectors already suspect transitional and mule errors, the value escalates even further. And then there is the possibility of repunched mint marks, although the Philadelphia Mint by that period generally used a single punch. But machine doubling and hub doubling remain possibilities, along with broad strikes where the coin was struck outside the retaining collar, resulting in a larger, thinner quarter, or off-center strikes where Washington's portrait appears dramatically shifted on the planchet, leaving blank areas, and dramatic off-center errors with a visible date and mint mark are always prized, particularly in high mint state condition. So when we talk about a 1992 peak quarter being worth $3 million, we are not imagining just any error, but rather a convergence of rarity, condition, and demand. For example, imagine finding a coin that not only has the transitional mule reverse, but also exhibits a double die obverse and is struck slightly off-center. And then imagine that coin surviving in pristine condition, never circulated, graded MS67 or higher by PCGS or NGC, and certified as authentic. Such a piece would be unique in every sense of the word, and in the competitive world of top collectors, it could easily spark a bidding war that drives the price into the multi-million-dollar territory. And the mystique of such coins is enhanced by the fact that they often remain hidden for decades in collections, jars, or rolls of coins before finally being discovered, authenticated, and brought to market. And the story of discovery itself often adds to the excitement because people love to imagine that they too could stumble upon a fortune hidden in plain sight, in their pocket change, their old dresser drawers, or an inherited coin collection. And this is why tales of coins, like the 1992 peak quarter reaching $3 million, resonates so strongly with both seasoned numismatists and casual treasure hunters, because it transforms the everyday act of handling change into the possibility of holding history and fortune in your hands. And when we examine further possibilities, we must consider the broader range of minting errors that could elevate a 1992 peak quarter to legendary status, such as clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing due to a faulty blank being fed into the press, or die cracks and cuts where the die itself began to fail, resulting in raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin, or struck-through errors where foreign materials such as grease, cloth, or wire was present on the die during striking, leaving behind unusual impressions. And each of these errors, when dramatic enough, can transform an ordinary coin into something worth thousands. And when combined with the already significant transitional error potential of the 1992 quarters, the value could increase exponentially, and the condition of the coin cannot be overstated, because while an error coin in circulated condition will always hold some premium, it is the coins that remain in gem mint state condition with brilliant luster, nowhere, and only minimal contact marks that command the highest values. And third-party grading services play a critical role here, because a certification from PCGS, NGC, or Annex not only authenticates the error, but also provides the confidence needed for buyers to risk millions in pursuit of a single quarter. And if we look at the broader numismatic market, we see that prices for rare and unique coins often far exceed expectations, with wealthy private collectors and institutions competing for ownership. So when one hears that a 1992 peak quarter has sold for or is valued at $3 million, it is not hyperbole, but a reflection of the market dynamics where rarity, demand, history, and condition converge. And it is also important to remember the historical backdrop of the early 1990s, as the U.S. Mint was beginning to modernize, experiment, and prepare for the new series of designs, meaning that transitional errors from this period are not only possible but perhaps inevitable, and that makes searching 1992 quarters especially exciting for collectors, because while billions exist, only a handful may contain the errors that make them legends. And this creates the thrill of the hunt, the idea that anyone anywhere might stumble upon one of these pieces in the most ordinary of settings, and that possibility keeps the hobby alive, keeps collectors searching, and keeps stories like the 1992 P quarter worth $3 million circulating and inspiring new generations of coin enthusiasts. And when you take a step back, you begin to realize that what makes such a coin valuable is not just the metal it is made from, which is only worth 25 cents, but the story it tells, the rarity it embodies, and the competition it inspires. And that is why coins like this will always hold a special place in the hearts of collectors, and why the legend of the 1992 P quarter will continue to grow, reminding us that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures are hiding in the most ordinary places, and that the pursuit of these treasures is as much about the adventure as it is about the reward. So keep your eyes open, check your change, search through old coin jars and rolls, because you never know. The next coin you find might just be the key to unlocking a story of rarity, history, and fortune that rivals the incredible tale of the 1992 P quarter dollar valued at $3 million. Last 1996 quarter dollar today, because we are about to explore one of the most fascinating stories in the world of modern coin collecting. A story that proves even coins as recent as the 1990s can hold secrets worth millions. And today we will focus on the incredible case of the 1996 quarter dollar. A coin that in most cases is worth only 25 cents, but under rare and mysterious circumstances tied to minting errors and production mistakes, certain examples can be worth an astonishing $5 million. And as unbelievable as that may sound, it is entirely true that rare minting blunders, transitional errors, or striking anomalies can catapult an ordinary pocket change coin into the realm of legendary collectibles. And in this script, we are going to unravel why this particular coin has gained such attention, what kind of mistakes and errors make it so valuable, what possibilities might have caused these rare variations, and why collectors are willing to pay such astronomical prices for something as simple as a quarter. So sit back and imagine that you could one day reach into your pocket, pull out what looks like a regular 1996 quarter, and instead be holding a $5 million fortune in the palm of your hand. And to fully understand how this can be possible, we need to look at the background of the 1996 quarter, minted in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco during a time when the Washington quarter was still the standard design, before the state quarters program that began in 1999 revolutionized coin collecting and brought national attention back to the denomination. And while most 1996 quarters are utterly common, billions were struck for circulation, there are certain rare minting errors that occurred under unusual circumstances that make a tiny handful stand out in ways that transform their value beyond comprehension. So let's dive into the types of mistakes that could cause such a leap, starting with off-metal strikes. Because one of the most fascinating types of errors is when a coin is struck on the wrong planchet, and since the mint was producing coins of different denominations and metals at the same time, it is possible for a quarter die to accidentally strike a blank intended for another denomination such as a dime, a penny, or even a foreign coin. And when this happens, the coin ends up being too small, too large, or the wrong color. And these wrong planchet errors are extremely rare, highly desirable, and depending on the exact situation can be worth hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. And in 1996, with billions of coins being churned out by high-speed presses, it is very possible that a few off-metal strikes slipped through quality control, leading to examples of the 1996 quarter struck on cent planchets, dime planchets, or other unusual blanks. Each one unique and incredibly collectible. But that's just one category of error that adds massive value. Another is double striking, or multiple strikes where the coin is struck more than once by the dies, sometimes at different rotations, creating overlapping images that look surreal, and collectors absolutely love dramatic multiple strike errors because they show the minting process going wrong in a visible and spectacular way. And when something like this happens on a 1996 quarter, it immediately becomes rare and desirable. And then, there are broad strikes where the collar that normally holds the coin in place fails, and the coin spreads wider than normal, or off-center strikes where the design is not aligned correctly, leaving blank areas on the coin. And the more dramatic the off-center, the more valuable it becomes. And then, there are double die varieties, caused when the die used to strike the coins was improperly hubbed with the design twice at slightly different positions, leading to letters and numbers that appear doubled, which collectors hunt down with great passion. And while double die varieties are most famous for coins, like the 1955 Lincoln cent, they can occur on any denomination including quarters. And if a 1996 quarter with dramatic double dies exists, it could easily become one of the most sought-after modern errors. And then, there are repunched mint marks, where the letter identifying the mint, like P, D, or S, was punched more than once in different positions. A type of error that attracts collectors as well. And when you add all of these possibilities together, you start to see why the 1996 quarter has the potential to be valued at $5 million when one of the most extraordinary and rare error types is combined with pristine condition and collector demand. But the story does not stop there, because one of the most famous types of minting mistakes that can catapult value is transitional errors, which happen when the composition of a coin changes from one year to the next and leftover planchets from the previous year get struck with a new date. And while the 1996 quarter does not mark a major compositional change like earlier or later issues, it is possible that experimental strikes, test planchets, or foreign coin blanks found their way into production, creating unique transitional or off-metal errors that are priceless today. And to make things even more fascinating, we need to consider how few of these coins exist, because rarity is what drives value. Billions of ordinary 1996 quarters exist, but only a handful of rare mint errors have survived, maybe fewer than 5 or 10 examples in certain categories. And when wealthy collectors compete to own one of these numismatic miracles, the price climbs into the millions, which is exactly how we arrive at the $5 million valuation. And if you think about it, the coin market thrives on stories like this, because it is not just the metal that makes the coin valuable, but the human story of error, chance, and discovery. The idea that a mistake made at the mint decades ago could lead to a life-changing discovery for someone today, and this possibility fuels the excitement of searching through pocket change, bank rolls, and old collections, because you never know when one of these rare treasures might appear. And when we talk about the 1996 quarter valued at $5 million, we are not just talking about a price tag, but about the ultimate dream of coin collecting, the chance that the ordinary can become extraordinary, that a quarter can turn into a treasure chest. And part of what makes this so engaging is the wide range of errors and mistakes that could be involved, from double strikes to off-center strikes to wrong planchet strikes to double dies, each type carrying its own story and its own path to rarity. And when certified by trusted grading companies like PCGS or NGC in top condition, these errors can become showpieces that command global attention at major auctions. And the $5 million figure is not just a fantasy, it reflects the reality of how high collectors are willing to go when the perfect storm of rarity, condition, and demand comes together. And beyond the money, there is also the fascination of history, because coins like this serve as tangible reminders of how complex and imperfect the minting process can be, how even in the age of modern machinery mistakes slip through, and how those mistakes become opportunities for discovery decades later. And that is what keeps the hobby alive, the possibility that in your spare change lies a story worth millions. And the 1996 quarter is a perfect example of this magic, a coin that should have been ordinary, yet thanks to rare errors and mistakes has become legendary. And so when we look at this coin, we see more than metal, we see a story of chance, of oversight, of rarity, and of immense value. And that is why the 1996 quarter has earned its place in numismatic legend as a coin that can reach $5 million under the right circumstances, reminding us all to keep searching, to keep dreaming, and to never underestimate the power of a small piece of history hiding in plain sight.